execute Order 66.
What you just saw was a brief scene from Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. In this one line, execute Order 66. The Supreme Commander is telling his officers to essentially annihilate the Jedi. But the reason I use it here is as an introduction to our Series 66. And we're not destroying anyone. We're simply helping people to understand the scope and the meaning of the Bible. Throughout this last year, we have visited several books of the Old Testament as we continue our journey through the books of the Bible. Today, we continue by looking at the book of Micah. Now, Micah is known as one of the minor prophets. Minor not because his story is less significant or less important. Minor simply because it is a shorter book than some of the others. In Micah, there are many things that would draw our attention. One of our goals throughout this Series 66 is not to give a comprehensive study of all of the books of the Bible, but to focus on one or two verses or stories in each book in order to help us get the flavor of what's going on and to encourage you to also look back and to see what might be happening. As I was thinking about this particular book, there were several passages that jumped out at me as significant and important. I'm going to list 3 additional ones in the comments section today in order for you to maybe go back and look at them yourself and to study them for yourself. The one I want to look at today, though, is very familiar to many of us. It comes from Micah chapter 6, verses 6 through 8. But prior to looking at that, we need to know a little bit about the book of Micah. Micah is a prophet to the southern kingdom, and he's talking to them about the immediate and imminent destruction of their kingdom because of their disregard for God's law and God's rule, and also for each other. Micah sees the destruction that's already happened in the northern kingdom, and he is helping the people in the south to decide and understand what it is that they might look forward to. Throughout the book of Micah, we hear of God's judgment upon them, but we also hear a note and a call for hope, knowing there's hope in God because of his great love. In Micah chapter 6, we find one of the most famous passages in all the Old Testament, and one that can help us to understand what it looks like to be a people of God. And so in this particular chapter, chapter 6, there is a courtroom drama going on, and God is both the judge and the prosecuting attorney. He is raising concerns about God's people and what they're doing, and then the people have a chance to respond. And as they respond, they wonder how it is that they could ever please God. We read from Micah chapter 6, beginning in verse 6. "With what shall I come before the Lord, and bow down before the exalted God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams and with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I offer my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul?" That is verse 6 and 7, asking rhetorical questions. What is it that would please God? I know that my sin is ever before me, Micah is telling us, and I know that I am incapable of atoning for that sin. So what should I bring? Rivers of oil? Should I offer my very firstborn in order to atone for my sin and make myself right with God? Essentially, the question answers themselves. There's not a thing that we can do to ever repay God for his mercy, his forgiveness, and his grace. And so Micah continues in verse 8. "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." 3 simple things. 3 things that we are asked to do as a response to God's love and grace in our life. 3 things. Micah is now taking on the voice of the attorney in charge. He's told you what you should do. He's told you what is good over and over again, not just through this book, but throughout the entire biblical story and through the arc of history. God has shown us what is required. Not penitence and sackcloth and ashes and so much other things that we try to build upon God. No church attendance or Bible studies or even watching videos like this. But an acknowledgement of our sin and to respond to the world by loving mercy, acting justly, and walking humbly with God. These three things will go a long way to help us with our own relationship with God, but also a relationship with the world. My friends, today it is my hope that you will take these words to heart, that you will take the guilt and the sin that is upon you and cast it upon Jesus, knowing that he loves you and he forgives you. And because of that love and forgiveness, you can love mercy, act justly, and walk humbly with God today, because he is your source and your strength of goodness and grace. God bless you, and have a great day.